Welcome into Lion Pride Sports. I'm Andrew Rogers, here for another edition to our Coaches Show. And joining us first will be the head football coach of the Lindenwood Lions, Coach Jed Stugart. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew. Good to be here again.
And let's talk about last game. That's where we're going to home for our start. We struggled to get things going offensively and defensively in different categories. Now, there was scoring, back and forth throughout the game, but something that stuck out to me offensively was the lack of getting the ball converted on third downs, 2 for 12.
Yeah, we didn't do a very good job there, and it was a big focal point of ours this week in practice. But it's an area in practice that we work on every week, and we just didn't get it done. And unfortunately, too many drop balls, too many. They brought a lot of pressure on third down. We didn't handle the pressure well, and we're just week in and week out right now with some of these losses we've had. We just haven't put those three components together. We've had flashes of being an explosive offense. We can have some big plays. We're running the ball pretty well, but it's those crucial third downs that hurt us. And you just can't do that on the road against a quality team like Fort Hays. I mean, there's just no way around it.
And then for Fort Hays offensively, and on the defensive side of the ball for the Lions, allowing 389 passing yards is not something that you can really contain if you're trying to get the win.
Yeah, we handle the ball running game pretty well, but it's unfortunately when you look at the film, we had so many great stops. We played defense so well in so many parts of the game. But they're an explosive, big play offense. They like to get 2, 3, 4 big plays a game, we just we gave up too many explosive plays that kind of yielded those yards a little bit. Big plays on defense. And it's just little things. We're constantly coaching is just a little thing. Eye violations if you're looking in the backfield and you let a guy get behind you, or it's just these little things that are kind of killing us that are fixable. But we've got to get more consistent with that.
And then early scoring for Fort Hays State killed some early momentum for you guys. A minute and 25 into the game is when they got their first touchdown. How hard is it for the offense to respond to something like that?
Well, we responded. We went down. We got us a field goal. It was 7-3. I could tell before the game. Things that worry you on long trips. We've had three really long road trips in 4 weeks. It's been 3 out of the 4 have been over 7 hours. It's one of those things that you're concerned about as a coach. Is like when you step out there, are you ready to go? I just felt like we were a little flat before the game. You're trying to get guys up and you're kind of looking at them. And I know our captains really made it a point, to talk about, going into this week, like, hey, we've got to be ready to play, whatever it is that pushes your buttons, because that first drive, they just kind of went down the field almost like on air, and we just didn't seem like we had the energy to go, and then we responded. We went down. We ended up being able to put a drive together. It's 7-3, and then when we do have a big play, we had a 94-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, gets called back with a penalty, and that would have put us taking the lead, and that just was unfortunate. We could have taken the lead there, and we didn't respond well to that. We're backed up now, and so handling those little adversity issues, we don't quit. We just kind of let it affect us, and we got to bounce back from those things.
And then, talking about a quick bounce back, Cade Brister did lead a 4-play, 52-yard drive, ended in a Mason Bendigo touchdown for 18 yards, but then all of a sudden it just seemed like all the momentum went the Tigers' way, because they put 13 straight points on the board and held the Lions scoreless in the second quarter.
Yeah, and again, we always talk to our guys about, there's no way you're going to play a perfect game, and football games are going to be messy. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. You have highs, lows, and that's one of the things that we're going to continue to keep working on. As we kind of build this culture, we have to bounce back from negative plays and not get discouraged and not let that affect us. So we've preached it till we're blue in the face, because we do so many great things. But now I will say, not excuses, but I will say, I'm really proud of how our team's handling a lot of adversity. I mean, we have a bunch of guys that are playing through some injuries that a lot of guys would be sitting out on. We're moving our offensive line around every week. Different guys are playing different positions due to injuries. And so, one thing that hasn't helped us all year is we haven't had the same 5 offensive linemen playing the same position week in and week out. They're either playing guard or center or tackle at a different spot each week. And that does affect you. So we got to get a little healthier. We got to get a little deeper in the O-line to where we can kind of not be rotating our O-line around so much. So on that side, our kids actually, from a psychological and just an attitude standpoint, they're handling that adversity pretty well.
And then before we move on to this week, my last question regarding the Fort Hays State game. The fourth quarter, just no scoring from both sides. Yeah, Fort Hays did grab a 2-touchdown lead at the end of the third quarter, but what can you tell me went on in the fourth quarter? Not being able to watch the game, not being able to have the time to hear the game, but
it's conversions.
Was it a battle of defenses?
Yeah, our like I said, our defense played so well in so many spots. Their yards came on big chunks and stuff. But when you really watch the film, you watch the game. First, we were put, from our special teams kickoff cover. I mean, we gave up another couple long kickoff returns again. That's really been a problem for us this year, and that's one of the things that we've got to get handled. Is we got to get, first of all, it starts with our kick. We got to get our kick placed in the right spot, and that's just been a struggle for us this year. And we're trying to get and so we've given up too much yardage, and we're giving our defense in bad spots on the field right now in key parts of the game, and so we got to get that handled. But good defense, but I think also the conversions. That's what we were talking about, the third and fourth down conversions. And one thing of all the great things Cade does, we're so excited about his future here because as a redshirt freshman, he makes a lot of plays for us, and sometimes but he's doing some things sometimes trying to make plays where he's taking a sack where he shouldn't, and in that fourth quarter we need to extend some drives, and even if we go for it on fourth down, but if we take the sack on the third down, then it kind of puts us in a position where we have to punt instead of try to go for it. Those are learning things that Cade's got to just get, that you only learn through being in the fire, and he's going to learn from those things, and he's a quick learner, and that's why as he matures as a quarterback, he's going to learn not to make some of those mistakes, because he doesn't make a lot of them, but those are things he's got to learn from too, is to get rid of the football and give us a chance at fourth and short instead of fourth and long if we have to go that route.
And now moving on to the matchup against the Mules. Again, Lions fans, you can check out the Lindenwood football team on Saturday. It is the senior game, and that's where I'm going to start my first question with you, Coach, is with this being the senior day game, the last game for some of these guys wearing a football jersey, what has practice been like?
Well, actually, that's what our captains talked about on Monday in our meeting. Is just it's when you're this late in the season, it's just hard to keep guys. I think coaches are struggling all the way through the country. You always are trying to get your guys to practice. Everybody's banged up. You've been in this routine. The season's getting long. And that's one thing I've been really encouraged about. Our Tuesday, Wednesday practices when we're on the field have been very, very energetic. They've been very good. You kind of sometimes have that feel during the week of how the week's going. I've felt really good about this week. The kids do care, so we've had good practices. We got to kind of have a good practice today and kind of polish up what we call our polished Thursdays, basically. But they do care about that. They do care to give their seniors a win. A lot of firsts here. We have an opportunity to have a better record than we've had in the last 5 years or 6 years here, and it's got to start with a win this weekend. So a bunch of things to play for, and I think our kids sense it because we've had good attitudes at practice. And
you're talking about how big a win would be, something that I look into a lot, and of course I know you look into it as well, but you're never focused on it, but I look into a lot of record stuff and how we've matched up against them before, and not beating UCM before in a Lindenwood jersey is kind of a tough thing to swallow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and not a knock on UCM for this year, but they're not as good as they were in years past. They're middle of the pack. Normally they're up in the top of the MIAA. Now they're 4-5 this season. You guys have the ability to be 4-6 if you get a win against UCM. So going into a matchup like this, and I know you never like saying this as well, but as a football player, the Achilles heel always is, these guys do have a better record than us, and they are better on paper than we are. But going into this game, it's more of an even matchup. So does that play into effect at all for a home game?
Yeah, I don't speak too much to to those specifics to our guys. I don't really talk about the past. I don't talk about, it's just something we don't really talk much about. You're always in meetings talking about kind of what we need to do to attack them. We're a very similar teams. I know the head coach very well. We're very good friends, and throughout the year we've texted once in a while or talked once in a while, and we're singing kind of the same blues a little bit. We're two very similar teams. We have our struggles in certain spots. Offensively they're a very explosive, I think top-rated passing team in our conference, and so they've got a lot of firepower too. But I do think our kids pay attention to that. I do think they kind of recognize, hey, this is a team we should get after. And I'll let them worry about that, but really just come out and start and really winning the first quarter and getting some momentum started has kind of been our priority this week.
And then for the seniors going into one of their last games, and I know we have had some NFL scouts come onto campus, and we have some players getting some looks in that category. But for those that may not see the next level of football, how emotional of a time is this for them?
Well, it always is. I think it really hits you like on the last game more than just like the senior day, I think, because they know they got another game, and you're getting ready for the kickoff, so you don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the finality of it. I think after the game, as kids walk off, realize that's the last time they'll play on that field. It probably hits them a little bit, but we'll have a nice introduction with our seniors before the game, and hopefully that inspires our team, our crowd, and we can get off to a good start. But it all hits all of us at the end of the year, especially after the last game when you're walking off, even as coaches, when you kind of recognize your seniors, because there's a lot of time that goes in, and in the off season, and you spend a lot of time with these guys. It gets emotional.
And then, Coach, one last thing very quickly. If you could summarize the core group of seniors into one word, what one word would that be? Committed.
I mean, these guys were a part of a coaching change, a culture change. We changed a lot of stuff when I got here, and we had to make a lot of moves, and there was a lot of guys that had to really change a lot of habits, and there was some good times and some bad, but the ones that stayed, the one that we brought back, they've all been committed. They've worked their tail off. And I hurt for them because I think we had bigger expectations for this year, but we know, I would say, committed. These guys have really tried. They've accepted us and our coaching staff and our philosophies, and I'm really proud of them, and I love them for that.
Well, Coach, good luck to you and the team on Saturday. Again, Lions fans, you can check out the Lindenwood Lions, their final home game of the season. It is senior day. It's against UCM, and it's going to be a great matchup. 1 p.m. at Hunter Stadium. That's it. When we come back, Coach, thank you again, but we'll be joined by the Lindenwood women's volleyball coach this time, Will Condon. That's next on Lion Pride Sports.
Observe a domesticated human family in their natural habitat, known to their species as the backyard.
Hey, you think I should light it now?
I think it's good.
Yeah?
Oh dear, someone is about to burn a pile of debris that's too tall, which can start a wildfire. Wait, could it be? Blimey, it is.
It's Smokey.
It's Smokey Bear. What a legend.
Hey, it's Smokey. Sorry, it was too high. Right.
Watch as he astutely ensures that there's no wind, and how he removes some of the debris to create a smaller, safer burning pile.
No, you said make it bigger, baby. The bigger the better.
Take note of our fearless furry friend here, humans.
I appreciate it. Fist bump.
Watching you.
Smokey's done it again.
Bye, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Lion Pride Sports. I'm Andrew Rogers, now being joined by the Lindenwood women's volleyball coach, Will Condon. Coach, thank you for taking some time and joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you.
And, Coach, I've gotten to talk to a lot of the other coaches here on this Coaches Show about one of the biggest news in Lindenwood sports headlines, and that's the transition to the GLVC. I want to get your thoughts on that, and do you find that will benefit you and your team?
First of all, I think it'll be a great move for the department as a whole, and that's the most important thing. But for our program, I think it will impact us in several different ways. The main thing that our players will probably notice, the first thing is our travel time will be a lot less. Instead of going to places like Kearney, which is 7-8 hours away, and UCO, which is 7-8 hours away, we'll be going to Maryville, which is 20 minutes away, and UMSL, which is 10 minutes away. So our trips go from 8 hours to the most is 4. And also we get to experience, cities like Chicago and Louisville and Indianapolis. So, we're really excited about it. The level of play is equally as demanding, so that's not going to change. But just, the weekends and the trips will be a lot shorter. And
Truman State, of course, a member of the GLVC as well, and you guys took them on last week, and that's where I want to start. So, you guys were swept 3-0 in those sets. What were your takeaways from that match, and how are you going to change that at practice and apply those takeaways for these next matches at home?
Well, with our situation, with where we are in the conference, we actually rested a bunch of players, a bunch of starters in that match to prepare for this weekend, because we have matches that we have to win this weekend in order to not only make the tournament, but give ourselves the best chance to be successful in that tournament. What I took away from that is that there were times where we were really competitive in that match, and we did a lot of good things. We just couldn't sustain it, and a lot of that have to do with people just not used to playing together in matches that were out there, and I liked our effort, but it just wasn't necessarily directed in the right areas.
And then just talking about then the conference, since you brought up, you rested a lot of the top players on the team, keep them healthy. And then against Emporia State is where I want to go with this question, is a sweep of 3-0. So
yes.
Did you find that the chemistry was better in that game than it was against Washburn when you took on, the 7th best team in the nation?
Oh, I mean, I think after the Washburn match and our performance in that, we challenged our players. We told them the truth. Our back is to the wall, and this is a match that we have to win. And you have to like the way they responded. They came out and put together 3 great sets, and did what we needed to do. I think Emporia was a little stunned. You could see it in their eyes when we were shaking hands at the end about the result, but I wasn't. I thought if we played at that level, that's what could happen.
And of course, you guys have been playing at that level ever since you've been here. You've had a short journey so far. Can you describe that journey at all for me?
It's been a learning experience, I think, on both sides, the player side and our side. We're constantly finding out new things that we're going to have to go over and learn or teach and develop in our players. It's not an easy process. It's one that takes a lot of time and energy and effort. The thing that we've been most pleased with is that our players are very receptive. We are constantly having to remind ourselves they don't know what they don't know. And we have to, just take a step back and just go over these things with them and teach them not only how to play, but how to compete and how to achieve a level that they're capable of achieving.
And then, again, you're in your second year as the head coach here at Lindenwood. Going back to last season, you oversaw one of the top Lindenwood volleyball programs in the history of Lindenwood. But going 20-13 is a tremendous achievement. My question for you now is, being a first-year head coach, how are you able to get these girls to buy into your coaching style and in your system?
I mean, most of our success came from that our players were hungry and they wanted to be better. We had a great senior class that was, experienced and skilled, but they didn't necessarily have a system together that, took advantage of their strengths. We brought in the freshman class that was recruited even before I got here. There was a lot of talent in that class as well, so we mixed that together and we put together a system that worked for them. And we held them to standards, and we pushed them, and we drove them. Sometimes they maybe didn't appreciate that, but it was only because we were expecting of them what they were capable of.
And I got to talk to Allie Clancy and Bailey Dvorak earlier this year, and the question now being is, you brought up the freshmen in that last response. One of the freshmen that they brought up to me that really stood out this year for this recruiting class was Emma Lattimore. They found her to be one of the most vocal kids on the floor, and that she's already showing leadership qualities. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. We have 9 freshmen this year, so there's a lot of them. So I think as a group, they feel like they can actually communicate and have a say because they're more than a third of our team. Emma is a really good just volleyball player. Like, she understands the game, she knows the game, and she's very subtle in the way she talks on the court. She holds herself to a high standard. When she makes a mistake, she's the first one to call herself out about it. And I think a lot of older players respect that because they don't. It's not like they. Sometimes freshmen don't know that they're making mistakes or doing things wrong, and Emma knows when she made a mistake and holds herself to being better, and she just works really hard and makes plays. And
it's good always to have that good volleyball sense early on.
Yes.
Another thing, with all of the players that you have on your roster, you have Alexa Presley, who leads the team in kills. You have Allie Clancy, who recorded her 3,000th assist. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But who's the player on your team that kind of gets overshadowed or doesn't get the spotlight often, but that you see her talent perform every match?
I think that there's a few. I think Kat Finnerty does a really good job. She just works very hard every single match, whether it's in a lot of the little things that necessarily don't show up in the box score, like closing blocks and being up in the air and available to hold blockers, and just she's done well with her serving and her defense, even though she's a middle. It's one of those things where she just kind of. While the other players may be the bricks, she's more the mortar that holds them together with her effort and energy.
And then when you go into practice for this week, again, you're taking on SBU in your first match of the weekend. Do you ever change game plans at all? And what I mean by that is, when you're playing against a team, say against Truman State last, you had a brand new lineup in there. Is the game plan different than it is on a normal basis against with all of your, the top players in the lineup, or against an MIAA opponent opposed to somebody else? Or do you guys keep more of a consistent game plan?
I think there's a lot of things that are similar to be successful no matter who you're playing. Serving aggressively. Defending their hitters and what they do, adjusting to it. So there's things that are the same and things that are different for each opponent, and we try and adapt, but we don't want to try and change so much that we get out of our strengths and the things that we do well. So it's kind of a balance between what do we need them to do and what are they capable of doing, and how can we stay true to ourselves while doing that.
Again, Lions fans, you can check out the Lindenwood women's volleyball team. They will be at home this weekend at Highland Arena. The first game Friday against Southwest Baptist, and the Missouri Southern on Saturday, which is where I want to go with my next question, Coach. Mm-hmm. When you have back-to-back games like this, back-to-back MIAA opponents, how do you prepare for 2 games at once, basically?
We kind of go one at a time. Like in our office, we're preparing game plans for both over the course of the week. We're watching film on both. But from their perspective, we're general stuff. We kind of mix in some things in practice that we'll need for those matches. And then kind of when the game day comes, we say, okay, this is what this was for, and this is what we need to do in this situation.
For somebody that's really unfamiliar with how scouting works when it comes to volleyball, how do you go about scouting a different team? Is it just like any other sport where you look at the strengths of the players and then you say, okay, we have to be in this spot at this time whenever you see this play set up?
I mean, we have a film exchange program, so we have every match that they have played this year. Plus, these are opponents that we've already played once. So we have the film from when we played them, so we kind of have an idea what they'll try and do against us. And then we have what they've done lately. And, we're trying to figure out tendencies. in each rotation, what do they like to do? Where do they like to hit? Who do they like to set? And then maybe who do we want to pick on with our serve? What do we want to try and do to disrupt what they're doing? And then adapt like what we do to try and take advantages of either some weaknesses or to put resources on some of their strengths.
And then talk to me even further about how important these games are, these last 2 games. Conference games, and these are, you either win them, you have the potential at getting to the tournament, or you fall and that opportunity starts to dwindle. So don't go into all the logistics here for me, but just talk to me about like what the picture looks like.
On the back half of the conference, which is where we are, there's basically 4 teams competing for 3 spots. Each one of us has 2 matches left this weekend. We are playing the 11th and 12th place team, so at home. So we feel like we are in the best position to make the tournament. But we still have to go out there and win. We have to win probably at least 1 match to get in, but 2 matches would guarantee it, but also could move us up to number 6 in the conference, which is better than number 8 because you're playing the 3 seed instead of the 1 seed. So all of these are important. We're in a good situation because we hold tiebreakers against the other people that we're competing against for these spots. So we just need to go out there and take care of our business and do what we're capable of doing.
And then talk to me a little bit about overseeing Allie Clancy's 3,000th career assist. Like how important is that not only just for her, but for you as a coach to be able to get her to that point?
I mean, we kind of try not to look at that stuff in the moment. We're just trying to, get these players as good as we can and develop them and train them and help them understand the game. At the end, you kind of sit back and go, yeah, that's a big deal to get that many assists. As a setter, you're constantly trying to make everyone else better, and I think that's something that Allie kind of takes pride in, is that her job is to make other people better, and she might not be getting as much credit as she deserves, but every kill, probably 98% of the kills that we have this year, she had a part of. So I think with her, it's been, when you're a setter and you come in and you have a coaching change, you have a different style, you have a different offense, so it can be difficult. She's been very accepting and very, adaptive to what we've done. I think, we've tried to mold our system to her strengths, and that's allowed us to make our offense a lot faster this year. We've kind of pushed the speed last year a little bit, but this year we were able to go even faster, and that's something that she's comfortable with, and that's made our other hitters become more versatile and be better. So I think she's done a great job with that.
An impact player at an impact time of the season, huh? The Lions take on Southwest Baptist, and then they take on Missouri Southern on Saturday. You need to check them out, Lions fans, because these are important games, and the MIAA tournament rides on 2 games like this. For Coach Will Condon, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Andrew Rogers. That'll do it for the Coaches Show here on Lion Pride Sports.